So my least favorite film, right? I would say my least favorite film, and this has remained my least favorite film for a long time. Like, since I seen it, I don't think there's been a film that I could really say I liked as little as I like this film. And that would be Where the Wild Things Are. Now, I love Where the Wild Things Are as a book. I cannot talk down on that book. It's great. And my mom used to read it to me like before I went to sleep as a kid. So I've really liked that book my entire life, but the movie is nowhere near as cool or as nostalgic and enjoyable as the book is. So Where the Wild Things Are was directed by Spike Jonze, and it's weird that I don't like this movie because I love what Spike Jonze has worked on in the past. He's incredibly influential, and he started out working in the skateboarding industry, which is super cool, and he actually owns a part of Girl Skateboards, and he's worked on a bunch of iconic skateboarding videos before he got into filmmaking. To name a couple off the top of my head are Blind Video Days, and he also worked on Rubbish Heap as well. He's also done all of the Jackass movies, which they might not be the greatest films ever made, but they're great movies and very funny. So it's strange that he missed on this movie, in my opinion, because he's a very innovative and really smart creator. So I'm not really sure exactly what happened with this movie, but let's get into it. The movie was written by Jonze and co-written by Dave Eggers, and the movie was produced by Tom Hanks. I don't think Spike Jonze and Tom Hanks have ever worked together, but Eggers and Tom Hanks worked on a movie called A Hologram for the King. So they have worked together in the past, so I don't think them meshing together creatively is the problem with this movie. I think this is a really tricky genre to do because you're already working with source material, and the source material has fans that have been fans since they were children, and they want to see it displayed correctly on screen. And that means you might have to make some changes that they might not like for various reasons. And I think part of what makes this movie not good is that the changes that were made were not very good, and I think they may have ruined the movie. It's also definitely a weird movie to make because the source material is not like Harry Potter or The Hunger Games. It's not a novel. It's maybe a 10 to 15 page kid's storybook. And if you take out all the pictures and just put the sentences together, it's probably only a couple paragraphs long. So it's not that long of a story, and so it's not a lot of source material to try to make a 2.5 hour long movie out of. But when working with source material that's so important and ingrained in people's lives, you don't want to mess that up. And when you do, people are not happy about it. So a couple of the weird changes they made in Where the Wild Things Are is that the kid is the interpretation of the kid is a little off to me. I feel like in the book, he's kind of just a misbehaving kid and his mom gets mad at him and sends him to his room. But in the movie, he is like kind of mentally off. He has like a lot of crazy anger issues and stuff. And he just acts out really crazy. And it's just, I don't know, it does not come off the way it does in the book. And it's just kind of off-putting, especially at the very beginning of this movie. You're just following this kid who's like extremely angry and stuff. And it's just like, oh, I'm watching Where the Wild Things Are? Like, this isn't really working, I don't think. And honestly, making the kid like so angry to where it's like sort of a mental issue is like, I don't know, it's almost kind of sad. I think it would have been much better to just go with how it is in the story, which is just a kid misbehaving, acting up. So another part of this movie that always stood out is very, very odd to me, and definitely something that did not happen in the book. I mean, like I said, the book is so short, so the movie is essentially a bunch of stuff that didn't happen in the book. But the part that always weirded me out is that at one point the Wild Things have almost like a snowball fight, but they're using sand because they live in a wild place. There's a lot of sand around. I guess not as much snow. They have more access to sand. So they're throwing like sand balls at each other. And it's shot like an action movie. Like it's pretty crazy and kind of gnarly. A lot of like moving camera and shaky cam shots. It's like, what are we watching right now? And at one point in the battle between the Wild Things, one of the Wild Things gets hit with a sandball and his arm comes off. And instead of like blood spewing out of his arm, which would not work for a kid's movie, sand just falls out of his arm. And it's just like, what? The Wild Things got sand like as blood? That makes no sense. They just got sand flowing through them. Not in the book. So yeah, there's just a ton of stuff in this movie that was added to flesh the movie out into a full film. And it's like it's where the wild things are, but it's where the wild things are with a bunch of added stuff that was never in the book, and it doesn't really come off very well. So unfortunately, I think Spike Jonze just kind of missed on this movie. And I didn't know it was directed by Spike Jonze until I was doing the research for this video. So it's just kind of interesting. I always thought Spike Jonze was always really making a lot of cool stuff, but he did not do a good job with this one. So yeah, like I said, I don't think it's completely his fault. I think he was tasked with a really difficult movie to make, and he tried his best, but his best was not good enough. So this is why Where the Wild Things Are is my least favorite film.